According to my research, Barnes & Noble has over 614 retail store locations as of July 2020. But there is only one to rule them all, and it's the largest Barnes & Nobles in the world, and it also happens to be the largest bookstore based on floor space. And if you've heard that Powell's Bookstore in Portland, Oregon is the largest in the world, that's the largest in the world based on shelf space. The little things you'll do to win a record. I don't know. Interesting. So today I am taking you to beautiful New York City to go see the largest Barnes & Noble in the world and find out why it is the creme de la creme, the cream of the crop, the best of the best, and all those good things. Because I'm very curious. I've been to a lot of bookstores in my lifetime, and I'm sure most of you have as well. And I'm interested to know what makes one better than the other, especially when it comes to the biggest in the world. It's really got to be something different. There's got to be something different. So we're going to find out what exactly it is and why this one is so special. Okay, let's go. This Barnes & Noble is located at 33 East 17th Street in New York City. Luckily, I was staying pretty close to it, so I got to enjoy a beautiful walk through the city. So here's a little bit of history about this bookstore in particular. The original Barnes & Noble was located on 5th Avenue, and it was founded in 1873. And since then, it has actually closed down, and now the Union Square location is the largest in the world. So the Guinness Book of World Records states that the Barnes & Noble on 5th Avenue covered 154,000 square footage, and it had over 12.87 miles of shelving. So when I look up this new location that I am going to right now, it appears that this is still holding a record, and it's the largest in the world. Upon arrival, you can just see how big and beautiful this building is. Oh my gosh, I was so excited to go inside and see what this store had to offer. First up on the right-hand side was the new fiction section and fiction section, and look how many books are here. It's absolutely insane. I don't know if you can understand how big this is and how many books are located just for this section alone, but it's a lot. And I also loved that they had staff picks for everything. And on top of that, you see all these tables. Yeah, these are all curated selections that you could go to choose books for what you're looking for specifically, like what is trending, Reese Witherspoon's book club, translated fiction, short stories, rom-coms, page to screen, which was my favorite section because I'm always looking this up, Mental Health Awareness Month, I Support Women's Rights and Wrongs, Myths and Legends Retold, dark romance, nonfiction paperbacks, science fiction and fantasy, and so much more. As I made my way towards the back, there was an entire section for book accessories, journals, stuff like that. And there was a whole music and movies section, which was massive. Now that I think about it, I'm not sure if I've ever seen this at a Barnes & Noble before. Do they normally have this? I don't know. I don't think I've ever seen this. Now it was time to make my way up to the second floor. I also love the pillars that are in this building. It just makes it look so elegant. So on the first floor, there was a whole toys and games section. This consisted of board games, things for kids, but there was also a huge Harry Potter section. And I know there's normally a Harry Potter section, but I felt like this one was extra big, and it was just an entire area dedicated to Harry Potter. I loved it. There is a massive kids section here, so if you have kids, this is a really good place to stop. But the kids section was about half of one level alone, which is huge. It's huge for kids. Now, between the retail stores and the online presence of Barnes & Noble, they actually sell 190 million physical books per year, which is actually quite shocking because I feel like not a lot of people read nowadays. That's better than I expected. That's quite a bit more than I expected. Guys, you're doing great. You're doing great. This place is so huge. It's huge. It's really big. Now we're moving on to more books, and this section is all YA. Yes, this entire thing is all YA. Can you believe it? There was a section for new YA releases, YA staff picks. I mean, look how many books are here that are recommended. I love a good recommended book. And since I was in this section, I figured, hey, I'm going to show you some of my favorite books that are in this YA section. Okay, so the first one is the Uglies series, Divergent series, Maze Runner. Man, I'm really going through all the basic ones that you probably know. Five Nights at Freddy's. This series is so underrated. Five Total Strangers, One of Us is Lying. This whole series is so good. A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. And yeah, so now it's time to head up to the third floor. So the third floor has a massive Starbucks, and it has a beautiful workspace if you want to work on your computer because you can see the city from the top. I absolutely love going to coffee shops, but I especially love going to Barnes & Noble and working on my computer there just because I don't know why. I feel like when I'm done working, I can go treat myself and look at books. Anyways, this is a really good location for doing some work. So I got myself a coffee, took a little rest, and then I got back to exploring. There were literally books for anything you could think of, and it wasn't on a small scale, it was on a large scale. Like, look at this section for international traveling, travel writing. I mean, what? I didn't even know that was a selection of books that you could look up. A massive sports section, and look, it's a lot. Look how many sports books there are. And then I especially loved that there was a pretty big science section. Love it so much. Look at this science section. In the science section, I figured I would show you some of my favorites, like A Brief History of Time by Stephen Hawking. This is such a good read if you're trying to learn about the universe. Neil deGrasse Tyson's Astrophysics for People in a Hurry. That's such a good one. General Relativity is one I really want to read, which I haven't gotten to yet. And Carl Sagan, Cosmos. That's a really good one as well. I also want to read Cosmic Queries by Neil deGrasse Tyson. I'm pretty sure this is a new book. And I also want to check out this book. It's called The Little Book of String Theory. And this book cover is just genius. It's so good. It speaks to me. Now it was time to head up to the last floor of the Barnes & Noble. I mean, geez, it's just as big as the last one. It really doesn't disappoint. They're huge. They're really just huge. And when you look around, you will see those curated book selections on each table, and this is something you will see on every floor. I already showed you a few, but here is yet another one. We Support Women's Wrongs. Love to see it. Now we're moving on to, man, there's too much here to talk about. Here's an entire fiction section. So we already went through like new fiction books, and that was on the bottom floor, but this was more fiction, which is crazy. The YA section, an entire wall. Fiction, like four different shelving areas. It's crazy. There's so much here. 4 floors. I love it. Then I headed over to the sci-fi section. It's one of my favorites. So I figured I would show you some books I'm wanting to read that I haven't read yet. So the first one is Tomorrow's Children, Hyperion, A Gathering of Shadow by B.E. Schwab. Oh my gosh. The Dark Forest by Lucy Shin. And of course I found the Dark Academia section. I couldn't resist. And there were a lot of books here that I haven't seen before, so I figured I would share a few that I thought looked interesting. Real Life by Brandon Taylor. The Things We Do to Our Friends. I love this cover. We Do What We Do in the Dark by Michelle Hart. The Will, the Many. And All the Lovers in the Night. Let me know if you've read any of those. So this is the fantasy section. Pretty large. I mean, you're not going to find a bigger fantasy section than you will here. I absolutely love it. All these sections are so good, curated so well, and if you're going in looking for a series, which I tend to do a lot of the time, I normally can never find them, but here you will 100% find the series you're looking for, and you'll find all of the books in the series, if you know what I mean. They even had all the books for the Murderbot Diaries, which is crazy because I've always looked for all of them and you can never find them in one store. My favorite book section of all was the romance section, and this was mostly because of how aesthetic it looked. I've seen romance sections in many stores and I've never seen it done quite like this. I don't know who put this together, but you deserve a raise, my friend. It's just absolutely beautiful. As soon as you walked into that area, you could tell they were like these joyful, loving romance novels. I never really caught on to the fact that, okay, maybe I did like subconsciously, but I never really thought about it until I was in the store, is that the book covers for rom-coms are always like bright in color to kind of attract you to it, to give you joyful feelings when you're looking at it. And then when you go to the horror section, everything is dark. It's like all blacks, browns, reds, and I'm like, oh, horror. You know, I get the vibe. I get the moody vibe from this area. And then I walk over here and then I'm like, this brings me joy and I feel like I'm watching Barbie again. Whoever organized this section of the bookstore really did an incredible job. It is so pleasing to the eye. I want a library of my own to look like this one day. Then I moved on into the mysteries and thrillers section, which was kind of like leaving a sunny day and walking straight into a storm. I mean, the vibes of both sections were entirely different. Now here's the view from the other side of the building, because you can get a view on each side, which is really nice. You can see that there's some people in the ground reading. I love them. I love them. Can we be friends, please? You don't want to be my friend? It's fine. I think it's so sweet. There was a lot of people that were here throughout the bookstore working. They were probably like in school doing some homework. At least I like to think that, because everything in my head is kind of like a DA story. But anyways, so security, I don't know, thinks I'm doing something. They keep passing me. I'm like, I'm just filming. But yeah, they have a lot of different sections. Like they have the biggest sports section I've ever seen. Who's into sports? Not me, but for those who are, you got all the books for it. But yeah, this place is huge. I don't think there's a single book they don't have. Take that with a grain of salt. They probably don't have everything, but you know what I mean. There was also a huge area for book signings and talks. I love those. I've been to one before in a Barnes & Noble, but it was very tight and it was impossible to see anything because it was so tiny. So I wish I would have been at this location. And look how amazing this view is from the window. So this is up on the 3rd floor. I absolutely love this view. It's so cool. I mean, just to come here and get a book and then have this view to sit down and read to is, I love it. It's so New York City. It couldn't be more New York City than this. There was also a really big world history section, like many bookshelves of world history, and it's definitely the largest I've ever seen. So that is it. I would say this bookstore is definitely incredible. The amount of different sections that you can go to find book recommendations, I think that was my favorite part. Just having recommendations from like Book Talk, female writers, staff top picks in different genres. I mean, I just thought it was awesome, because when I personally go to read a new book, I go on Goodreads and I read the reviews, and I feel like when you get a staff pick or something that's like recommended, it's as if I'm on Goodreads but in person, and it makes me want to read it because I see that they liked it. And I'm like, you like it, I'll probably like it too, hopefully. And yeah. So I guess that is it for my entire trip to the biggest Barnes & Noble in the world, biggest bookstore in the world based on floor space. And I hope you guys enjoyed a tour of this Barnes & Noble. And if you're in the area, you go check it out for yourself. Thanks so much for watching and hanging out with me today, and I'll see you in the next one.